Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into this talk. My name is Einar. I am a Norwegian programmer. I have been a professional programmer for, I think, 18 years now. So I'm what you'd call a senior programmer, I guess. But I'm not a software craftsman. And that saying that feels a little bit awkward because maybe some of you are, and we have like tension over the internet, which can be uncomfortable. But I want to clarify then that this is not like a talk that says death to all craftsmen, or that craftsmen are bad, or that they're stupid, or anything like that. It's sort of a personal talk about why I don't think of myself as a software craftsman. I'm going to say why, and then you can make up your own minds about that. And I also would like to acknowledge all the great work that's been done by the crafting community, in particular in mentoring new people into the profession. I think that's really great. But then again, I'm not a software craftsman, and this is a talk about why. So why not? And I suppose I had sort of like an identity crisis a few years back. That's what happens to you when you get 4 years old, I guess. But it started with this question, like, what is a good developer, right? And that's an important question to answer because it allows you to answer this even more important question, which is, am I a good developer? Because that has to do now with self-worth, like, am I a valuable person? Or as Roberto Benigni says in my favorite movie, Down by Law, I am a good egg. It is important for us to feel that we are good eggs, that we are good people, and that we are valuable as people and as professionals. And software craftsmanship is a narrative that provides answers to these questions, right? What it means to be a good developer. You can be a good developer through being a software craftsman. So in that sense, software craftsmanship is an identity. And it's also a narrative. It's a narrative about what matters in software development. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. It's also a narrative that talks about pride and professionalism. In fact, in the literature, you'll find that craftsmanship is often used synonymously with professionalism. So it's used interchangeably like that. And I'm also going to argue that it's a narrative of heroes and adversaries. I'm going to start then with a hero. Who is the hero of software development? And it's an easy question, right? It's a programmer, of course, right? In particular, it's this guy. It's the pragmatic, good software craftsman who relies on his skill and his training and his own good judgment to do good in the world. And it's armed with these like twin swords of TDD and solid, and it's drilled through countless katas, and now it's like ready to take on the world. And his main quest is seeking mastery of the craft, right? That's the main thing. And he does that through technical excellence. Right? And underlying that is a belief that discipline can fix software. Whatever is wrong with software, discipline can fix it. Best practices can fix software. Virtue can fix software. I can slay the dragon. So it comes down to me, right? Me and my skill. If I'm good, then the software is going to be good. If I'm high level enough, the software will be great. And that's basically where my identity crisis comes from, because I don't think that's true. I guess I sort of like to believe that was true once, but I don't anymore. But why don't I believe that? Well, who makes software? And again, that sounds like a trick question, right? So we all know who makes software. We're the ones typing at the keyboard, we're writing the code, we test it, we ship it to production. It must be us, right? Surely it's us. So here is sort of the craftsman model of software development. You have this pretty border of professionalism on the outside, and then you have a lot of passion on the inside. It's very sort of inward facing. Whereas you might imagine that's not going to hold, that bubble is going to burst because it's not very thick. And the reason is that programmers don't make software, organizations make software. And once you sort of realize that, you also realize that you have all of these sort of what we call socio-technical issues, like the organizational structure, the culture in the organization, how you communicate, how you resolve differences of interest, how you resolve conflicts. All of those things are going to sort of like seep into your code, right? And that, in that sense, sort of the health of your organization is going to place an upper bound on the health of your software. So if you really care about software quality, you need to address these things head on, right? And then suddenly, with that mind image in your head, this question becomes difficult, right? If that's true, then what's the craft of software? software development. And the reason I think that craftsmanship sort of fails to see this is that it's caught up in what I like to call a fetish about code. Like the code is the only thing that matters, right? You might have heard something like the code is the truth, right? But there is no truth in the code. There is no truth about anything interesting in the code anyway, because the code can only tell you what it does, right? So it cannot tell you what it should have done, and it cannot tell you if it's providing any value to anyone. It can only say what it does, right? And the code has no direction. It doesn't want anything. Right? So it's not strategic, right? And those are all things that you care about when you're doing software development. I sort of wonder what this virtuous programming is anyway. So I think in the Craftsman's Tale, there are sort of like three kinds of programmers, right? One group is the unwashed masses, right? The lazy, undisciplined programmers who don't care, they have no passion for programming. And these are like obviously bad, right? In a sense, they're easy to deal with. They're obviously bad, and they're writing horrible code that the craftsman has to clean up afterwards and all that stuff. But in a sense, you have understand them fairly well. And then you have the software craftsman, and then they're sort of like good by definition, right? You could be an apprentice, you could be a journeyman, you could be a master. It doesn't really matter. You're on the virtuous path. You're among the good people, right? But then there's this third category, which is kind of problematic. These are the ivory tower zealots, and the problem with that they also have beliefs about software, right? They also have passion, but they believe in the wrong things, and for that reason they are terrible, right? They have principles, but they're all wrong. They could be into like category theory instead of patterns, or into formal verification. They might not even do TDD, or not even believe that TDD is very valuable, right? They might want to do other things instead, and for that reason they must be banished from the real world. Because obviously they have to be talking about something else, because both sets of beliefs cannot be true at the same time. And I think, in a sense, at least to me, from my perspective, craftsmanship is surprisingly conservative. I think the reason is that you have this sort of mental image that they have already all the knowledge written down on the scroll to be passed on from the master to the journeyman to the apprentice. And that's not terribly progressive, right? Because then you have to look for counterexamples rather than confirmation. And you sort of have to realize that radical improvement to how we do software must always come from the outside. You can't just do more of the things that we're already doing, right? You must challenge the best practices. So I wonder if craftsmen really do question their beliefs, right? Do they welcome differences of opinion? Do they like to talk? I don't know, but I think disagreement, a certain amount of disagreement is good, right? Because it has energy. That's how we might get somewhere. So tension is good. Dissonance is good. And speaking of dissonance, let's backtrack a little bit. If the program is the hero of the Craftsman's Tale, what about the adversaries? Who are the adversaries? They look like this. It's the business, the suits, the clueless managers. So they're people that are never coded a line of code in their life, right? And, you know, software craftsmen talk a lot about respect, but it's mostly self-respect, right? Programmers respecting themselves, which is good and it's fine and it's important. It should. But it gets ugly if you at the same time don't respect others as much. And have you seen or heard how craftsmen speak about non-programmers even at conferences? It's not very pretty. And it's definitely not a good way to form productive partnerships, right? So you have this divide between the so-called business and the craftsman. And in a sense, you have this image that the business people, the suits, they can be invited into the craftsman's shop where everything is neat and tidy and it's sort of like a stronghold of sanity. And there they can order this handcrafted high-quality software, right? And in this model, communication is negotiation. We, the developers, we are the business. We are the business just as much as anyone else. There are no business people. There are just other people doing other stuff in the same business that we do. Right? So communication should be collaboration. If we really mean that software development is a cross-functional team effort, we must collaborate, not negotiate. So with that backdrop, how can we be valuable? How can we be good eggs? Right? I would like more programmers to look beyond just this mere technical skill things. So in my work, I try to bring value by doing domain modeling, because I think that poor modeling and weak language is a prime driver for complexity and technical debt. You could be into systems thinking, right? How complex systems work, and in particular, how they fail. You could be looking at strategic architecture, how to align your technical solutions with where the business wants to go next. There are so many valuable skills that are not really related to this typing of the code, right? So then, what is a good developer, right? The original question. Am I a good developer? What is my identity as a software developer? I would like to see more heresy, I think, like more challenges to the craftsman narrative, other ways of thinking about things. I would like to leave you and end this talk with a book recommendation. There's this great story by Italo Calvino called The Non-Existent Knight. It was written in 1959, but it's clearly about software development. Right? And so the hero of that story is Sir Agilulf Imo Bertrand of the Guldy Verne. And he is the perfect knight in white armor. He knows all the duties and routines, and he keeps everything clean. And he's angry with his fellow knights because he thinks they're lazy, undisciplined. And the only problem with Sir Agilulf is that he doesn't exist. There is no body inside the armor. So when he takes off his armor, he just disappears. And I think that's sort of an important lesson with respect to identity. As developers, we should not allow ourselves to disappear. Thank you.